Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. The intention of this podcast is to help you to open your mind, get curious about yourself and raise your consciousness levels. I am your host, Karen Maloney, and I work as an inside-out coach, mentor and guide, helping women to revolutionize their internal chatter and create a life they love. Listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform you choose. Check out my website as well, soulpowerlight.com, for more info. Hello everybody. How are you all doing? It's me, Karen Maloney, and I am bringing you another wonderful episode today. Nearly the last of the year, and certainly the last with a guest. I'll have a solo episode next week for you, kind of a roundup of the year, and then probably take a bit of a break. So before I introduce today's guest, I just want to let you know about a fun, practical, nourishing, exciting online meetup I have organised for January. So it's every Wednesday in January, starting the 5th, 12th, 19th and 26th. And the intention is to meet for an hour and get our energy or focus or vibration and our intentions right for the year ahead. It's not about mass resolutions or elimination lists or deep inner soul searching work. It's more high vibe, getting our energy right and just moving through January without the doom and gloom and kind of dragging our heels. It's approaching it differently. It's looking forward to it. It's raising our energy. It's doing it in community. And it's just going to be lots of fun. So I invite you to check out more on my website, karenmaloney.com. And if you go to the shop section, it's called Right Start. And all the information is there. Yeah, come, sign up, join. Excited to see you there and to all move through January together on a bit of a higher note. And then back to today's guest. Today joining me I have Tim James, and after suffering from multiple health issues including rectal bleeding, 2 separate skin issues, chronic acid indigestion and surgery to remove one of his organs due to serious digestive issues, Tim knew something had to change. But it was only after watching his closest ones die of cancer and the untimely death of his younger brother that he finally decided to take action. Tim's journey led him to a shocking discovery which helped his friend beat cancer and transform every area of his life. Feeling charged with the duty to help others, he started sharing his knowledge with anyone who would listen, and this led him to producing his own chemical-free products, and Chemical Free Body was born. Tim's inbox is constantly flooded with people singing and dancing about how his products have given them a life they couldn't believe was possible. So yeah, and in this episode, Tim shares about his own health issues and his friend who was suffering cancer and how he agreed to go on a detox and visit a different holistic centre with his friend to help him in his healing journey. But he actually ended up learning and discovering so much as well, and this led him on this path. So he shares lots in this conversation about health and health issues and how we can best support ourselves because we do live in toxic environments and we're very disconnected from nature and our true selves. So he shares lots of tips with us as well, and especially how, again, true health really starts from the inside out, and how when he connected to a spiritual path as well, it really helped him have a more conscious channel, choose higher vibration foods and just feel so much better. So there's so much in this conversation, and Tim shares his core 4 secrets, but he also has a free ebook on his website to delve more into these 4 core secrets as well. So as always, his website and any other websites that he mentioned during this conversation will be linked on the show notes from my website, karenmaloney.com, and click the podcast section. But you can also find everything as well on Tim's website, chemicalfreebody.com. And Tim has kindly given a 5% discount on his products. For any listeners, just put in the word curiosity when you're checking out and you can get an extra 5% discount. And Tim also shares in the conversation how you can get a double discount as well when you visit his website. So chemicalfreebody.com. But as always, all the notes will be on my website as well, karenmaloney.com, and click the podcast section. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. It is me, Karen Maloney, and I have another brilliant guest for you this week. So joining me this week is Tim James. So first of all, you're very welcome, Tim, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Karen, for having me on your show. I'm really excited to share with your audience today.
Yeah, and even just from our little chit chat there as we were connecting before we started recording, I'm really interested as well to dive in today and see where the conversation leads us. So first of all, you're the founder of Chemical Free Body and you're a heart health hero. So maybe if you just set the scene for us, first of all, and tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to this work.
Okay, cool. So I grew up actually in Eastern Oregon on a small cattle and hay farm. So I grew up hunting and fishing. And my best friend was like a rodeo star. I ended up playing baseball, which was awesome because we ended up taking like fifth in the World Series when we were 15 years old in Babe Ruth in Springfield, Missouri. And that's when I got introduced to chiggers and fireflies. So the fireflies were cool, but the chiggers will bite you. So if those around Missouri know what I'm talking about.
I'm lost.
Yeah, so they're little bugs. The chiggers will bite you. They're little microscopic no-see-ums that'll get you. So, so let's fast forward. I was basically on the standard American diet. Everything. I grew up happy. I grew up in nature. We had a farm. We grew alfalfa hay, grass hay. We had Hereford cattle. We had a huge garden. So I was always in the woods, always out in nature, and I really appreciated that. And that's where I wanted to be. And then fast forward till I was 37. Now I moved down to Portland, Oregon, which is the biggest city in Oregon. There's 2-3 million people in the surrounding area down here, and it's kind of crazy. And I came down just to play baseball and got stuck down here. Did some construction work and found my way into sales, and then eventually as a financial advisor. Had a couple kids, wife, mortgage. And but my health had been suffering. I'd been gaining 2, 3, 4 pounds a year. My gut was a wreck. I was taking Tums and Rolaids 24/7. I had acid reflux, and then my elbows and my knees started getting eczema, and it got really bad to the point where I looked like a salamander man, and they would crack and bleed, especially in the winter, and I'd be bleeding. When I'd go visit somebody at their house, I'd bump into their wall or on their couch. I was always cleaning up blood. It was like annoying. And then it got worse. Then I actually started bleeding rectally. So when I pooped for like 2.5 years, it would be followed by blood. That's why, for those of you listening, you can't see my shirt, but my shirt says "Love when you poop," and because I didn't love it. It was like on a 1 to 10, 1 being no pain and 10 extreme pain. I was a 6 or a 7 on the pain scale, followed by blood. So imagine this: I'm walking around. I can't even wear white shirts anymore as a financial advisor because I would just stain the elbows and destroy them. So I had to wear dark shirts. No big deal. But it was just embarrassing. And my life was imploding because I was a very A-type person, very outgoing. And I didn't even want to take my shirt off at the beach anymore. Not that I was overweight, because everybody else was pretty much. But it was just the elbows and my knee. And I was embarrassed. So my universe was like shrinking. And I was going inward, and it wasn't a good feeling. It just wasn't. I wasn't able to express myself the way I used to. I just wasn't as outgoing. So then I was on a plane flight actually down to northern Peru, just south of Ecuador, on a vacation with my wife and her dad. Now, her dad was a medical doctor. He'd never taken a vacation in 30 years, which is crazy. He's just a workaholic. We take this vacation. It's a beautiful beach. We have this beautiful little hacienda we're staying in. There's like 9 houses on this beach, so it's like totally remote, awesome, beautiful. And out on a chartered fishing trip, I got sick, and we thought that it was motion sickness. Now, I'd been out in the sea before and never had motion sickness, so I thought that was odd, but it wasn't. It wasn't that. It got worse, and then I was doubled over in pain. And then her dad's like, "Oh my God, we got to get you to the hospital." But I missed the one plane flight out of there by 30 minutes. So he's like, "We can't wait, or I could die." So they bought or rented a van, and then they drove me 6 hours in the middle of the night through the super bumpy road down the coastline of Peru to a town called Piura. And the road was like this, dun, da, 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 bump, 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 bump. So it was like, ow, 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 for 6 hours. It was the most miserable experience of my life. I was sweating bullets. I was completely exhausted by the time we got to the hospital. And then here I am in a third world hospital looking up at the examination lamp, and it's got bugs flying around in it. Like, I'm in the hospital, right? I'm like, oh my God, I've paid into health insurance my whole life and I can't use it. This sucks. So they doped me up and then put me on a commercial plane flight, which you're not supposed to do. And then they flew me into Peru to the hospital because he wanted his surgeons to take care of me. My wife's dad, he had a big clinic in Lima, and they took me right into surgery, and I went right into surgery, and they saved my life. So that was really a shocker. The two big takes.
What was the issue you were suffering? Was it like a culmination of things just adding up over the
Yeah,
years?
my gut was all jacked up, and it was I had an appendicitis, so it just about burst. And a lot of the doctors are like, oh, appendix is not important. Well, yes, it is, and they're finding now it might be one of the most important organs because it actually regulates the gut microbiome. But the universe, the creation, God, He, She, It, put it in there for a reason. Creation does not make mistakes. So
yeah.
Oh, don't worry, we'll just cut it out. So my poor lifestyle had led to that point where I destroyed one of my organs over time, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I wanted to be healthy. I just didn't know how. And I tried 5 small meals a day. I tried high protein, high fat, high carb, low carb, mixed it all around. And sometimes they'd work a little bit. But the reality was I just didn't understand that foods and my lifestyle was detached from nature, and that I wasn't living with nature, that I learned that I am an expression of nature. I am nature, right? So if you look at this just from a basic biology standpoint, in the soil, there is what's called bacteria. They're called soil microbiome. In your gut, you have bacteria, gut microbiome. Many of those bacteria that are in the soil are the exact same bacteria that are in your gut. So we are nature. The other thing that's very simple that most people get is like, what's your body mostly made of? Water. So, and minerals. Well, what's the earth got on it? Water and minerals, right? So there we go. Case closed. We're nature. But I didn't understand that back then. So what happened was I came back home. My wife pushed me in a wheelchair as I was healing back into the United States. And I continued on my journey of rectal bleeding, acid reflux, Tums and Rolaids 24/7. And then a friend of mine, Charles, got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is supposedly this incurable blood cancer. And then he asked me to go with him to the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, which is like this natural detox and nutrition clinic. I don't know. Have you heard of them before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So I'd never heard of it. And he's like, yeah, we're going to go there. I'm going to try to heal naturally. And this is a good friend of mine. Our kids played together and, we worked together. And I thought he was going to die because my experience with cancer was, you get it, you're toast, you die. My grandma died of brain cancer. My aunt died of skin cancer, melanoma, horrible surgeries, radiation, all that stuff, chemo. A good friend of mine, Clay Mahoy, at age 40, actually was very fit on my baseball team. He got stomach cancer and he went through the chemo and surgery and all that stuff. And he died at age 40 and left 3 little boys behind from ages 6 to 17. So here comes my buddy at age 43. And I'm like, now I'm freaking out too, because now like people are dying my age of cancer. Now before it was like older folks, like people that I knew. And you think, well, people get older, they die of something. So you don't think much of it because you're busy living your life. And now it's like kind of hitting home because people my age were kicking the bucket with it. And so anyway, I told Charles, yeah, I'll go with you. I'll support you no matter what you need. Had no idea what I was getting into. Remember, I'm the redneck hunting and fishing dude, right? So I go there, and on the plane flight there, Charles is like, oh, by the way, there's no meat, there's no dairy, there's no salt, there's no sugar, there's no vinegar, there's nothing cooked over 115 degrees. It's really about raw and living foods. And I'm like, what? You lost me at no meat, because I'm like, now I'm literally freaked out, scared. I don't understand how you can exist without meat, because I've been so indoctrinated into that. Plus, as being a guy, growing up in Eastern Oregon is like growing up in the 50s. So it's like kind of repressed a little bit. And, it's kind of like being a man. It's like watching a 007 movie. He goes out and beats the crap out of the bad guys, and he gets this beautiful girl, and he gets beat up, and he's drinking some whiskey, and he's tough, right? And that is such the polar opposite of what a human being should be, whether it's a man or a woman. Like, the social indoctrination is everywhere. It's very prevalent. And it's disassociating men from their true nature. But we'll probably talk about more of that later. So we go there to the Health Institute, and the first day my acid reflux is gone. This is the first time in like a decade. Like, I don't have to have Tums and Rolaids. And I'm like, wow, this is odd. And then I started detoxing. So the first class I went to was called Internal Awareness. And this doctor came out and he was just full of muscles and very healthy looking. He had just turned 50 that day, is Dr. Scott Josephson. And he was actually looked like he was 40. So that was kind of the common theme at that place. The people that worked there looked about 10, 20 years younger than their age. And I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. But I still didn't believe that this little podunk place in Florida could help people cure themselves of cancer. I mean, my God, we have our best minds at it and billions of dollars is being spent and raced for the cure and all these things. So if they can't figure it out, how could this little place do it? Well, he started telling us about how our body operates from the time you eat food until it goes through the body, what happens, and it exits the body. And I thought, wow, that's fascinating. And what he said is that the average person in America has about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon. And this is why we have a lot of issues. In fact, 85% of disease actually starts in the colon. That was the Royal Society of Medicine made that statement years ago. And I totally believe it from my work as a health coach in the last, and living this lifestyle for the last 11 years. I've seen it over and over again with many people, not just myself. So he was trying to sell us on the fact that we got to get this nasty stuff out of the colon to heal the body. In fact, he looked at me during the class. He said, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And if you ever want to be healthy, truly healthy, you have to get that stuff out of the body and get it cleaned up. And I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, how do you do it? And then he's like, colon hydrotherapy. Now, are you familiar with colonics or colon hydrotherapy?
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody listening that's not, I didn't know what it was. You basically set on a tube rectally and water goes gently in and out of your colon for an hour and it cleans your colon. And it cleans all that average of 6 to 12 pounds of funk and gunk and junk out of your body and cleans you up. And I'm like, okay, Charles, I came here to help you with your cancer, but I'm not doing that. It's just, there's no way, okay? It's just that nobody's touching my butt. Okay, that's weird. And luckily, though, for me, that doctor was really smart. And he started showing virtual colonoscopies of 4 people, 3 people on the standard American diet that had disease, and somebody that had been on the Hippocrates lifestyle. The first was a 24-year-old woman that had Hashimoto's and thrush, which is a yeast infection. And inside of her colon, it was like white and yellow and nasty. And you could tell it was weird. And I was like, oh, my God. And then the next person was a 65-year-old male with colon cancer and parasites. It was all black and dark brown and nasty. And you expect to see brown in a colon, but it was just, and then white worms crawling around. And then he looks at us, he says, oh, by the way, over 50% of you easily have parasites, not just the pinworms, the hookworms, and the tapeworms. He said, this is not a third world affair. He goes, people in America think that that doesn't happen to them. It's totally silly to even think about. He goes, there's microscopic parasites that you can't see, and all of them are eating your food, drinking your drink, urinating and defecating in you, having sex, and laying thousands of eggs, if not millions of eggs. And now I'm just like, what? And I'm seeing this stuff on the inside. And then he's like, now this is a person that's been on the Hippocrates lifestyle, eating raw and living foods and all this stuff. And you could see the blood vessels and the pink. And there was waste matter in there, but the terrain, Karen, the terrain was completely different. And then that's when it clicked for me and I got it. I'm like, oh my God. It's the environment. It's the terrain. We were talking about Bruce Lipton earlier. He had that aha moment when he realized that it was the environment, stupid, putting it into his words, that created how the gene was going to express itself. We weren't locked into this theory of like, oh, well, your mom had it and your sister had it and da-da-da, and you're probably going to get breast cancer too because it's genetics. But what I've learned is genetics is like 2 to 3% of it. 97% of it's the environment. So if mom and sister and aunt all have breast cancer, they're probably all eating the same crap and have the same type of stressors, and they have that predisposition to that weakness. But if they can change their environment, change how they think, change what they eat, what they drink, the exposure to EMFs, all these types of things, they can definitely change how that gene expresses itself. And scientists looked into that, so I'm just like freaked out. So I'm like, okay, I jumped up in the middle of the class. I signed up for the colon hydrotherapy session, still nervous, but now more nervous about not doing it. And the next day I go in, they weigh me. I do the colon hydrotherapy. They weigh me again. And guess what? I dropped 10 pounds of impacted funk and gunk and junk in 1 hour. And I actually started feeling better because I think the night before I had like night sweats. I was irritable. I had a metallic taste coming out of my tongue. I was going through this Hertz reaction. They call it a detoxing or surgery without a knife. As I was changing my internal terrain, the harmful organisms were coming out. The viruses, the bacterias, the molds, the yeast, the fungus, the parasites, and the cancers, these mutagens, they don't thrive very well in a high oxygen alkaline environment. They do well in a low oxygen acid based environment. Well, what's the standard American diet? It's acid based, and it's low in oxygen. And they had put me on the highest oxygen, highest alkaline diet on the planet. That's why the living food program it's a healing process. So all of a sudden I woke up Thursday morning and I felt like a new person. I looked at Charles and I said, dude, do you feel as good as I do? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I can't believe it, dude. But I said, I have mental clarity. I can't believe it. It's like I'm like eyes wide open. I'm 18 again. My arms are literally tingling with energy, Karen. Charles, you're going to heal, dude. I go, this is it. We have discovered the fountain of youth. This is what everybody is really looking for. I said, we're going to go home. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to give up all meat except for bacon. And I'm going to do this whole juicing thing with you. And that's what we did. We went home and we juiced, and we started growing sprouts and wheatgrass juice and did all kinds of stuff. And we changed our lifestyles. And I did it for him, to support him, because I didn't want to see another friend die of cancer. And by osmosis, within 60 days, all of my health issues were gone, pretty much except for that knee problem, because it was a huge patch of eczema. That took about 8 months. It's been 11 years, and I'm 48 now, and I'm healthier now than I was at 37. I'm trail running. I've learned how to deal with inflammation. I understand how the body works now, and we've coached thousands and thousands of people globally to just use these basic principles and get their health back. I mean, it's really not that hard. It's like, get rid of the stress, get rid of the chemical toxins in the body that you can't see, and replace the nutrients and the bacteria that are missing, and let your immune system do the rest. And then, a lot of it's attitude. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. And thank you for that. And, you touched on lots of different things there as you were explaining your story and some of your journey. And, it's really interesting. And I wonder what's your take on why people allow it to become so normalized to feel sluggish, to have all these issues, to feel a bit meh, to pick up 2 or 3 pounds every year, as you mentioned. Why do you think as a society it's just become so normalized, and we don't think, maybe there's a bigger picture going on inside here, and maybe I have to take responsibility here? Why do you think it's just such a common normalized state?
Well, I think it's the disconnect from nature and a disconnect from God. And the reason why is because, well, I'll give you an example. For me, I found my spiritual path through food. Other people have things happen. They'll have a death or some traumatic experience, or they might find it through yoga or, whatever. But for me, it was food. And what I've realized is that when you eat low vibrational foods, your vibration is low, and the channel that runs between you and God or your higher mind, he, she, at the vortex, whatever you want to call it, it gets weaker. It's like the signal is weaker, especially when you're eating things that actually close down your pineal gland. There's certain things that actually close down and numb the pineal gland and calcify it. So all these things that the standard American diet or standard Aussie diet or standard Canadian diet or standard Ireland diet, it depends on where you're at in the world. But if the Western diet has gotten to you, then it's literally shutting you off from your own true nature. So what happened to me is like all this stuff, just like I just cleaned out my body, just like taking a car or a tractor into the shop, and I flushed out the transmission fluid. I flushed out the engine, the digestive tract, which is the driving force. I think it's the driving engine of your life. And I started healing my body from the inside out. So if you have skin issues, most likely you have a gut issue or lung issues. It's an inside job, and that's what I learned. So when I started cleaning that up, that's when I started looking around. I'm like, wait, there's something more. I didn't even know what it was. I just remember looking around going, there's something more. There's something. I didn't know what it was. And it wasn't until 2018 when I ran into a couple of teachers that I started getting it. It took me 7 years later after that awareness to finally start on a spiritual path, because it's confusing and you don't know what to do, because there's all these religions and churches, and they all want you to get in and get into their thing, and their thing is the only thing. And it's almost cult-like. And then there's just so many different teachings, but I don't know. I found my own path now. I'm very strong on the spiritual path. I feel very good about it, and I can't wait to learn more. I love reading books, and I love meditating, and I love doing all this stuff. And I became a yoga instructor and a raw food chef, and just completely opposite of this, redneck guy that's supposed to go out and shoot a bunch of. I haven't killed anything for years. I don't want to kill anything anymore. Well, my son wanted to hunt, and so I go with him, but I just go with him to spend time with him and hang out. And he's on his journey right now.
Yeah.
So I allow everybody
Yeah.
to unfold on their own time, and I don't put my ideals on anybody, because I see that a lot. Like somebody goes vegan or somebody goes all carnivore diet and it works for them or whatever, and then they're trying to tell everybody else what to do.
Yeah.
Right? You're a jerk because you're eating meat. And I'm like, dude, you were eating eggs like 2 weeks ago. You just went vegan a week ago, and now everybody else is a jerk. It's like everybody's on their own path. I believe on leading by example. That's the gift to give to people. Give people your presence, give them the results in your own life, and then let that be the gift to give them, and then let them take that gift and do whatever they want with it.
Yeah. And that's so true. And I know it was definitely a part. It took me a long time to accept and move into that space of, oh, actually, everyone's on their own path as well. And yes, I may feel incredible to how I felt before. I may feel like a totally different person inside. I may have all these tools and skills and but it doesn't matter. It's not for me to enforce. And I did years ago go around like a raving lunatic to my friends going, oh my God, this is what you need to do.
I know,
And
I
then
did the
it's
same
like,
thing.
yeah, because you feel so good. You've learned these tools. You've connected to this bigger picture that it's just natural you want to share it. But actually, by going that route, I just ended up stressing myself out more. And it did take me some time to move into that space of acceptance. And actually, everyone is on their own path, and I can only be the best version of myself and have that inspire and influence others if they choose. But it's not for me. I don't even have to speak a word, and that's coming back to what you said about foods. It's a vibration, it's a frequency. We sit into a different energy, and our energy transmutes way more than any word that we could ever speak. And it is from the inside out. And that's why I call myself an inside out coach as well, from my own journey going, oh, yeah, everything has to start from within. What's your take as well? Because obviously you founded Chemical Free Body as well. And the world has been in a huge transition and shift for almost 2 years now. What's your take on things, and how realistic is it to live in a chemical free body with the world the way it is at the moment?
Okay, so what happened was, a couple years into my journey, I heard about this. So for the listeners, when you get done listening to this talk today, go to your browser and search for these 3 words: umbilical cord chemical. Umbilical cord chemical. And you'll see the studies that I saw going back to 2005 showing that every single time they tested the umbilical cord blood of young babies and young mothers, supposedly the healthiest of all of us, they were looked for 400 toxic chemicals, and they found 250, or 71% of what they were looking for. Now, 180 of these cause cancer in humans, and 212 cause developmental and brain disorders, as an example. The scientists, doctors, and researchers referred to this as a body burden. So that's when I sat back in my chair, Karen, and I was like, oh my God, we're all polluted, all of us. And the older we are, the more time we've had to bioaccumulate these toxins through the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the cosmetics and skin cares and lotions and potions that we put on our skin, things that come into contact with our vessel, and we're super polluted. So that's, and we have, the evidence is so clear. I mean, the number one killer for children forever was accidents. Now the number one killer for kids that are from birth to 5 is now brain cancer. Think about that. That's the number one thing killing our children today. Why? Well, they're born polluted. And here's the deal. They looked for 400 chemicals. There's over 100,000 chemicals that are out there, and there's 2,000 new chemicals being made every year, and only 1/4% are tested. The rest are just released out into the marketplace. Buyer beware. How can we even compete against that? 70+% of water is acid rain. Over 70, I think 2 or 74% of rainwater today has glyphosate in it. That's the stuff in Roundup. That's the herbicide that kills plants. God, there's so many things. Like, there's this whole gluten-free movement. And a lot of people, we see this in the coaching program where people get off of gluten and they improve, but then they still struggle. Well, it's glyphosate. Glyphosate like destroys your intestinal villi. It's part of that leaky gut syndrome where it's having those microscopic tears and holes in the intestinal lining. I think it's totally related to that. So not only does it have to be gluten-free, but glyphosate-free. It is crazy to me, because when I go home to see my mom and dad, they watch TV all the time because they're in their 80s. And every single time I go home, there's a commercial. And these attorneys are paying thousands of dollars to run these commercials. And it says, if you've been exposed to glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup, you may be entitled to compensation. Contact XYZ law firm today. Joe Blow down in California just won a $74 million lawsuit for his lymphoma cancer. And it's like, they wouldn't be spending the money on that if they weren't bringing people in and going and getting money that's set aside from Monsanto, which was bought by Bayer. And that was a strategic move to get rid of the Monsanto name because it was so bad. Now it's like it went away, but it didn't. Bayer just owns it.
Now it's under pharmaceutical name.
Yeah, it's just silly. I mean, this stuff is so silly. So we have to really be aware of this stuff and understand. And that's my mission, is to bring awareness to these microscopic noceums and then give people ways to get this crap out of the body and then stop putting it in, right? So one of the things we learned at Hippocrates Health Institute was, if your toothpaste says harmful if swallowed, please contact the Poison Control Center. You might want to think about putting that in your mouth again, because aren't you poisoning yourself a little bit every time you, well, somebody like, well, I don't swallow it. Yes, you do. If it goes into your mouth, it absorbs through the mucous membrane and goes directly into the bloodstream. You don't even have a liver to filter it. And anything that touches your skin also goes directly into the bloodstream. Like, these sunscreens, they're trying to tell everybody run around, oh, you got to protect yourself from the sun and skin cancer. The sun gives you cancer. That is silly. The sun does not give you skin cancer. Think about it. Why is there people, indigenous people and people in other parts of the world, they're out in the sun all the time? They have like virtually no skin cancer. They have none. It's the chemicals. It's this chemical buildup in the body. And when you go out into the sun and sweat, these chemicals come to the surface of the skin, and then those UV rays come down, and then that's where the cancer is made. It's the chemicals. So don't put on toxic cancer-causing sunscreens and stuff like that. In fact, I've got a book over here, Dr. Elizabeth Plords. She has a whole book on toxic cancer-causing sunscreens. You just get outside and sweat, and then about every 15 minutes, rinse yourself off in the water. And once you're on this lifestyle and you've really purified yourself over about a 3-year period, you'll stop pushing out all these chemicals onto your skin, and then you can go out in the sun and you won't get cancer so much like that at all, because you won't have that toxic soup. And we definitely need sun because we need to make vitamin D for sure to boost our immune system. So it's learning stuff like this. I didn't understand any of these things. I didn't know it. That's where the awareness, I believe, and that's why we started Chemical Free Body, because I learned that if I could bring awareness to this and show people how to get this crap out of their body, clean up their gut, clean up their blood, their fat, and their muscle tissue, and get all these toxins out, and then get them plugged back into nature, getting real nutrition, that they could get their health back, and also deal with stress too.
Yeah. And I love having these bigger picture conversations as well, because, when we actually take a moment and stop and just think about it, and I think this is half the issue. People, we're so busy. We don't have time to stop. So we just keep going with the norm and what's quick and easy and useful for us, or most convenient, I should say. But when you actually take the time out, or you start adding in one healthier thing, or doing a process to help eliminate or detoxify the body, and you start to tune in and become more conscious, like, it makes total and utter common sense, a lot of this stuff. Totally. And I remember years and years ago when I started I just started adding in something healthier, and then I just became more attuned, and I was like, wow, when I eat fruits and vegetables or something living, I actually feel alive. I feel full of energy. I feel alive was the only word that could come to mind. Whereas then if I ate dead food, carbs or highly processed, I literally felt lethargic and stodgy because there's no life in them. And it's just like basic common sense.
It's so simple, because if you look at the body like a system, everything in universe is a system. They're either an open system, which is also called a dumb system, or a intelligent system. And part of every system, you have an input and then you have an output, right? And we can talk about transport, conversion, and storage. Those are the parts in the middle. But besides those main 5 parts, an intelligent system has 4 more parts. An intelligent system has a goal. An intelligent system has a sensor to sense how are things working. So if I eat that carb, how does it make me feel, right? And if it does make you feel good, then that sensor will send the signal to the controller, which is us making choices, to decide to change the input. And we keep changing the inputs until we hit our goal. It's like a magic formula. It's really simple. So we just have to look at it like It's just a basic system. I mean, it's not rocket science.
No, it's not. But the key part to all of it is awareness as well. And again, when we're often in that space and just running, we're on the hamster wheel, we don't stop for that moment of pause. It's as simple as, like you're saying, does it make you feel good or bad? Whether it's a thought, whether it's a food, whatever, if something makes you feel constricted, low energy, it's clearly not something you should be thinking or eating or doing. Do something that makes you feel good. Period. All the time, and make it simple and allow it to accumulate and build. And the aim of this conversation as well is not to fill people with fear going, oh my God, we live in such a polluted world and our water and our food system and everything is destroyed and all these chemicals and product, da, 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 da. Yeah, they're there. But again, can you share some simple tips for people to be able to become more aware, to start to make a change, to move themselves onto a new path, a new vibration, a new frequency?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought up a really good point too, Karen, which is like, if you go, when we went to Hippocrates, Dr. Clement, who's one of the co-directors there with his wife, Anna Maria Clement, said that people coming to Hippocrates are either enlightened or frightened. And either one can serve you in the beginning to get you to move and start changing your inputs, right? Changing your approach. I went from the fear mode. I actually did. But looking back now, I would say a better approach would be the enlightenment mode, because when you come from the enlightenment side, you're actually, our thoughts create emotions in the body, and those emotions actually create chemistry. And if you live in fear, you're actually creating chemistry in your body to like spiking your cortisol and blowing out your adrenal glands. And this is going to lower your immune system. That's not what you want. You're in fear because you don't want to get sick, or you don't want to get a disease, or you don't want to have all these problems that your friend had or whatever. Just by having that process, you're going to get yourself closer to it. So you want to come from a point of like, creation doesn't make mistakes. I'm here. Okay, I'm not feeling good. I want to change things. I want to lose weight. I want to get off these medications. I've got this disease. I want to turn it around, and I'm going to do it. And other people have, and I'm going to go find them, and I'm going to model with them, and I'm going to learn. I'm going to keep what works and throw away what doesn't. I'm going to keep on that path until I heal, and I'm going to enjoy the whole process and look at it as a gift. Like, that was the one thing that, like, when you go to Hippocrates, if you have like cancer, stage 4 cancer, you'll sit down with a good psychotherapist, which 95% of them are crazy, but a good one. And they're going to tell you, or they're going to say, hey, why are you here? And they're like, well, I've got, stage 4 breast cancer or something. And they're like, oh, well, congratulations. And the lady will look at him, like, turn her head sideways like a dog, like looking kind of weird. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Did you just hear me? I got stage 4 breast cancer. He's like, yes, you're one of the rare people on this planet that actually gets a chance to truly live. And it takes a while for that to sink in. And usually after a week or two of being there, people get it, because they realize they have not been living. They've been just drifting through life. And now that you have this awareness and you bring to consciousness, not just running on this subconscious programming that your parents have given you from their parents and their parents and their parents and society, which is by design, you break out of that subconscious programming, you start living in a conscious moment. And it's really all about attitude. So to give people some practical things, I would say we have our things called our core 4 secrets. And when people go to our website, we actually developed an ebook, and you just go to the website and a little thing will pop up and you can get this core 4 secrets ebook, but I'll just touch on them. So these are 3 things originally that I was very frustrated, because I had like 5,500 people come to my home for these raw food dinner juicing classes. And we sold a lot of juicers for these juicing companies. But the problem was a month to 3 months into it, talk to these people, and a lot of them, 9 times out of 10, the juicer was under the cupboard and they weren't using it anymore. And I'm like, why? So I interviewed 100 people, and they said that took too much time, cost too much money, or they didn't want to clean the damn juicer. That's what I heard over and over again. I want it to be easy and simple. So I went back to the drawing board. I'm like, what could I tell people that would give them the least amount of effort, but produce the most results? And we originally came up with 3 things, and I added a 4th later, which I think you're going to like the 4th one. Core secret number 1 was drinking half your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water daily. And if you lived in the city where you're on city tap water, the water also has to be restructured, because the high pressure pipes in city tap water coagulate the water molecules, and they make them too big. They go from a 4 to 5 cluster to like a 20 to 25 cluster. And then these are like bowling balls trying to go through a chain link fence. The bowling balls being the water molecules, the chain link fence, your intestinal lining. So we want to make it restructured so it's small like sand, and then you throw sand through a chain link fence, it goes in there. In 2008, I learned about restructured water. I was the clean water guy, get your water purified, get it clean. But when I switched over to restructured water on top of that, that's when I really started absorbing water, and I took my health like up 3 more levels, because now my body's mostly made of water. what I realized is this is one of the most important things besides air, getting your air right, is getting your water right, right? Because your body's mostly made of it. So if you're going to consume water today, probably some tomorrow, next week, in the future, in the years to come, that might be a darn good place to put an investment. Spend $5,000 less on your car and go get a really awesome water purification system and a restructuring system, and then have on demand. I mean, like literally the water that I drink 3 quarts of it in the morning, and I'm high on water for 6 hours, like high as a kite. So if you want to get high on water, you want to get your water right. Now, I know people are probably wondering how to do it. I got my system through a gal named Danusha, and I used to send people to her email, but we'd get tons of emails like, how do you spell Danusha? So we built a landing page for her, and people can get a free consult. They can just go to mypurifiedwater.com, and they can get a free consult with I call her Water Woman, because she healed herself of post-traumatic stress after childbirth with this water system and concentrated food and herbal supplements like we sell. So anyway, so that's number one. Get your water right. And how do I know? It works because 95% of the population is not doing enough of it. So if you're a 200-pound person, that's 100 ounces a day. And if you're a 100-pound individual, that's 50 ounces a day. And if you exercise a lot, you're a triathlete or whatever, you're in an arid climate where it's super hot, you need a little bit more. Okay. And wine and beer doesn't count. Sorry, it just doesn't count. Those are more acid based. So what would count is water by itself, or water with a green juice powder, or like caffeine-free teas like chamomile, stuff like that. Flaxseed water would be very good. It's one of our secrets over here too. Different secret. So 95% of you listening, I know if you change your water, you're going to change your life. Core secret number 2, chew your food until liquefied. Now, Mom told us to do this. A lot of us are so busy today, we forget about it. I used to eat like Garfield. It was one of the hardest things for me to do, but I figured it out. And it's really important. Not only are you masticating your food to make it smaller so the digestive tract has an easier job to break it down into smaller particles, liquid, so it can be absorbed on a cellular level, but you actually are releasing enzymes, digestive enzymes. You have 2 ducts in your upper mouth and 4 in the lower mouth. You release these enzymes called amylase and lipase that break down your starches and your fats. So chewing your food is really important because you're preloading it with these enzymes. Then the enzymes in the stomach, that's where most of the digestion takes place, but it starts in the mouth, right? So if you don't chew your food well, you're going to have fermentation and gut rot, and slowly you're going to erode and destroy these intestinal villi, these hair-like structures lining the intestinal tract, and then you're going to end up with, like me, leaky gut syndrome, acid reflux. You'd be on Tums and Rolaids, and the doctors want you to go on Prilosec and take a bunch of crazy stuff. That's what happened to me. Chewing your food well will get you a digestion and absorption of nutrients. That's what we want. Less than 4% of the population is chewing their food well. That's why I know there's massive room and improvement here for the people listening. And also, Dr. Gabriel Cousens, who's in his 80s right now, can do like 30 pull-ups. I mean, I can't even do that. He said that when you chew your food well, you're actually stimulating the meridian points in your teeth. And hold your hat on this one, ladies. You can increase your serotonin or your happy juice in your body by up to 500%. Think about that. There is no pill that you can take or anything. Serotonin, like how many people are dealing with anxiety and depression out there? Like, chew your food really well and you're releasing serotonin, the happy juice, to make you feel good. Unbelievable. All right. So hopefully I made a point for chewing your food. Now, core secret number 3, now that you're drinking lots of water, so your cells are hydrated, take nutrients in, you're chewing your food well to get good digestion, absorption of nutrients. Now we want to avoid liquids with meals. Why would we want to do that, Tim? Well, you worked really hard to chew that food and put those enzymes in there. And if you drink purified, restructured water or beer or wine or apple juice or whatever, you're going to dilute those digestive enzymes, the amylase and lipase, and you're going to go right back to fermentation and gut rot. Once or twice, so shoot me, but a lifetime of every time you eat doing that, again, you're going to go back to destroying those intestinal villi from the inside out. Remember, this is an inside game. If you want beautiful skin, you have to have beautiful villi. You want a beautiful intestinal tract. You want beautiful colon. That's your focus. If you do that, you are going to be as beautiful as you could possibly be. No skincare company could do this for you, what you can do for your skin from the inside out. Less than 2% of the population is doing that. So massive room for improvement here. And what a rule of thumb is, stop drinking an hour before you eat, and then wait 2 hours after you're done eating, and then drink copious amounts of liquids again. Very hydrated. And then the last one that we added later was core secret number 4 is doing some breath exercises, breath work, breath play, whatever you want to call it, before you eat. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, we live in a stressed out society. And even if you don't think you're stressed because you've developed this tolerance to the way our life is today and you think you're not stressed, your nervous system is still affected just like a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you. What that means is that things are going on, like the blood supply leaves the organ systems to go to your extremities, your arms, legs, hands, and feet to what? Fight or flight, run or fight something. Well, you can't digest your food well if the blood's out there. So simply by taking a deep breath in through the nose like this, and then hold, and then out through the mouth. Just a nice, long, slow flow. Just let it all go. Back into the nose. Pause at the top. And release out through the mouth. Just go through this process. And here's the deal. You only have to do this for a minute or two. If you did this with me, you probably feel more relaxed already. And I don't care if you breathe in the nose, out the nose, in the nose, out the mouth, in the mouth, out the mouth, in the mouth, out the nose. It doesn't matter. Don't get caught up in the minutia of this stuff. Just sit down, be calm. And if you're embarrassed of doing it before you eat, go to the toilet and do it where nobody can see you, or go to a closet. Just calm down. You shouldn't be embarrassed. It's your life we're talking about here, and set an example for other people. Just take a moment and do it. And you'll go from fight or flight mode into rest and digest mode. That blood will leave the extremities and go back into the organ systems. So you can actually digest your food well and get good absorption of nutrients. Now, this is also a good time to be grateful for your food and grateful for your life, grateful for your connection that you're building with your spiritual practice, great for the people in your life, and grateful for this experience that you have in front of you. And then what I remember is less than 1% of people are actually doing that. So we have those core 4 secrets. I know 95% of the population or greater is not doing them. And I know they work because I've gotten really good at doing them in my life over the last 11 years. Not that I'm perfect at it, but I try my best. And we ship our products worldwide, and we get emails literally daily from people saying, my gas and bloating's improved. My headaches are better. I have more energy. I have better mental clarity. They don't even have their products yet. What are they doing? They're practicing these core 4 secrets. 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of them, stacking them. And the easiest way to get them to start happening is use your phone and program them as reminders in your phone every day when those things would occur when you need them to. And then over 3 to 4 months, you actually reprogram the subconscious mind. And then it becomes as easy as riding a bike, even though it was difficult in the first place.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing those as well. And that last one of breathwork just reminded me, a couple of years ago, I did a 10-day silent retreat. And that was one of the pieces I enjoyed most, was at the meals in silence. And, they asked you to be really mindful as well and consider what you're eating. And obviously it was all, vegetarian and from the earth, but like taking a moment to acknowledge what was involved, the growing, the person who tended to it, loved it. If it came, this came from the garden in the house. But it was just such a beautiful experience, and something I still try to carry with me this day. And I have that really bad habit that sometimes when I sit down, it's like, oh, now I'll have a moment to catch up on an email or something. And I'm like, put the phone away, Karen, be present, breathe. And it's made such a massive difference. And I love as well what you said, illness, it's a gift. And I honestly look at it that way as well. And I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people instantly go to, oh, my body is letting me down, why me, and all these kind of things. And on the outside, it looks that way. But again, it's that deeper picture, that message, like you're saying, or for me, I'm like, it's a call for help. It's a call to say, hey, I'm your body, I'm drowning, I need some support here. Can we figure this out? Can we work it together? So I love that focus on it as well, and that perspective when it comes to any illness or disease or feeling, or whatever it is. It's your body's call for help. Going, please, we need to change some things. But Tim, it's been such an interesting conversation. I'm sure we could go on and on forever, but we've already gone way over time. But please, can you share where people can find out more about your work? And as always, I'll have direct links as well from the show notes on my website and to your ebook and different bits. But please share where people can find out more.
Awesome. Yeah, the easiest place is just go to our website at chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. Again, when you go there, snoop around a little bit and a little window will pop up and you can get the free ebook on the core 4 secrets where we go into more detail, and we actually throw some recipes and stuff in there as well. If anybody's interested in trying our naturally occurring detox and nutrition products that are formulated by Dr. Scott Treadway, we have a lot of them. So I would just say go to the products tab and I'll show you guys how to get a double discount. You just go to the savings bundles and those are already discounted. You can start with a little jumpstart bundle or go all the way in with the total energy and detox bundle and a bottle of turmeric. That's what I do every month. Or just pick something that resonates with you or your budget. And then at checkout, you can put the code CURIOSITY and you'll get a 5% discount on your first order. That way you can get a double discount. And we have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products. So, because it's just real food, it's real herbs, it's the life force is intact. You can actually measure it. We were talking about that earlier with Correlian photography. We can actually see the life force in our products. We're really big on frequency over here. And I really appreciate you having me on your show today and giving me an opportunity to share. And I hope that those listening will put themselves first and realize that mama bear has to take care of baby bear by leading by example, not just taking care of everybody else first and then waiting till a wheel fall off and then you can't take care of anybody. You really got to put ourselves first today and set a good example. And especially if you really love your kids, that's the best way to do it is show love to yourself first.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you as well for that final empowering message. And thank you as well for offering a 5% discount as well for listeners, and they can use the code curiosity. And that's always the invitation as well. Lead with curiosity. If you start leading a life with curiosity, it will lead you to all the good stuff. So thank you so much, Tim, and all the best. And hopefully we might connect again another time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you get notified every time a new show is released. Get more information on this week's guest as well on my website www.soulpowerlight.com.